Good afternoon. I have Tish Dodd here with me today. She teaches third grade self-contained at Albertville Elementary School, and I want to thank her for participating in this with me, please. Thank you. Okay, first I want to start with all teachers are teachers involved in any curriculum decisions?
Based on my experience at my school, I would have to say not really. I mean, we're given, I feel like we're not really let to give too much input, and the things the curriculum that we were given last year, like some new reading stuff, we got to look at and study it, but we really weren't giving the choice of whether or not that's what we're going to do. We just, we do that. So I would say no, teachers aren't really involved in it.
That's true.
Yeah.
And in our school system, or in our school in particular, we have 43 third and fourth grade teachers. And we're grouped into pods, where we work with a number of probably 8 teachers, third grade and fourth grade. And there's usually someone from the leadership team, but still I don't feel that they I don't know that they have input on curriculum.
Yeah.
They
There's supposed to be somewhat a voice for, everybody else. But for the most part, I think that the final decision doesn't come down to, what we would prefer or what we have experience using. I don't think so.
At the district level.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next. How has the infusion of technology into classrooms had an impact on the curriculum in your classroom?
The number one impact that I've seen is with state testing, and how I know where we are, how everything has moved toward online testing or on the computer versus traditional way of testing. So I've had to adapt and the way that I do things in my classroom to try to teach to that, or help kids be prepared for what's coming. Because, when they come to third grade, they normally haven't taken a state test. And then we start using all this technology and different things, which kids are really good at that and can adapt. But they've seen things they've never seen before. So it really changes the way I have to do things in my classroom. And a lot of things have become a lot more technology has been used just to prepare for that. So I think that's really changed the way I've done things, the past several years in my classroom.
Absolutely. And have you noticed technology changing anything at the school or district level? Well, in our recent situation, probably.
Our recent situation that we've been in this school year with, we never thought that school would just end, or we would be going, doing virtual learning from home. So that was a major change that happened that I think anybody expected. So it really, having the technology is good. It really, without that, we would be not even talking to our students, I felt like. And it gave me a way to communicate with my students outside of school. So, and on the district level, the way that technology, I feel like it showed them how they need to make some changes to help our students outside the classroom that may be struggling.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Okay. Lastly, has technology and the transition to online or virtual learning been a catalyst for curriculum changes?
We can answer that. Yeah. I think so. I think it kind of brought up some issues that maybe we had before we went to virtual learning. And for example, like our school is so big, so other schools may not have the same issue, but we saw that when trying to do virtual learning and trying to get parents on the same page as us, that we really couldn't do that because we have so many teachers and so many communities. Everyone was kind of doing something different. So it kind of showed the need for us to get on the same page and get together on something so that we can say, this is what Aberville Elementary does, not this is what this community does versus this community,
Exactly.
So it showed kind of how that put a kink in things, being in communities and stuff like that. But let's see, what was that question?
Transition to online or virtual learning has been a catalyst.
Yeah. So I definitely think it has shown some changes that need to be made, but for the most part, I do not like virtual learning. So that's just my opinion. But,
well, you like hands-on with your children.
I'm ready to get back in the classroom and see my students face to face. I think that is the best way for them to learn.
I agree.
So,
and it's good for them to have that interaction with you. In that, do you do any Google Classroom? Do you do Google Classroom with your students? And has that helped with the virtual and online?
And I'm going to say this: I offered when we first got out for the pandemic, I offered all of my students a way to get access online. If they wanted to get online and see things that I shared, they could all do that. They all had an opportunity to do that. I talked to all the parents. They knew where to go to see assignments or things that I just kind of posted to help them through the process. And they knew where to go on Google Classroom. But out of the 24 students that I had, only 2 students would ever get on at one time on there. So the majority of my students never once looked at any of the things that I shared. So it really showed me how the gap that could be caused by the virtual learning. They're not in a school setting. They're at home. Their parents aren't teachers.
Sure.
I mean, it's not what they do. And some of them don't want to do it. They don't want to homeschool their kids, So, I think it's easier to slack off at home. It's easy to just be like, we're not going to look at this today. We're at home. We're not going to read today. So it's easier for gaps to happen in their learning. And that's what I was really worried about, with them starting back to school. What were they missing out on? What they did. There's so many things that they didn't see, even at the end of the school year.
Right.
So just to think about that happening for a whole school year, it would set us so far back. And that may not be true for all areas or districts or whatever. I just know in my particular classroom with my students, virtual learning was not working out for us. I needed them there with me so they could hear what I have to say,
Do you think some of that could be because of maybe them not having access to Wi-Fi or even a computer or whatever? Because we all assume that they all have technology because we're such a technology-driven world. So I just wondered if you felt like that was something.
I do feel like that is a big part of the problem. You think about the area that we live in. The poverty level is pretty high in our area. So a lot of the kids that I had didn't have those things at home, or their parents had cell phones and iPhones and stuff like that. They didn't have computers though, or they were using their parents' phone to do their work, which is almost impossible to do. I mean, they're trying to do schoolwork on an iPhone. And several times I reached out and tried to do a Zoom call or something like that, and I got less than half of my students on there. So, and they were usually using, some of them use an iPad, most of them use their parents' cell phone. So that showed me that they really didn't have some of the things that they needed. And if they did have Wi-Fi, I don't know. But I didn't want to assume that they didn't care and didn't want to access Google Classroom. I felt like it was possible that they just didn't have access to those things. So, and most of my parents did have Class Dojo, which was a good way, for me.
So that's what you use.
Yes. So I communicated with them a lot through that, because I could instantly send them a message and let them know, hey, this is going on or this is happening. And that was a good way. They messaged me a lot through that.
That's great.
With questions and things. And if I didn't know, I just, would say, I don't have the answer to that right now. I'll get back to you, And I would reach out to them, send them messages, say, I'm putting this online for y'all to look at. But even with that and contacting parents or trying to contact them, I never really got a good response. And so that's kind of worrisome when it comes to virtual learning.
Exactly.
How connected are they really?
The class makeup makes a difference.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, Is there anything else that you would like to share? I mean, you've really covered all of those questions, and I really appreciate you doing this for me.
You're welcome.
And I just wanted to say thank you.
Thanks for asking me over.